What's good? This is day 11 of reading every single day to improve my speaking abilities. Um, Today we're reading An Actor's Handbook by Konstantin Stanislavski, and I'm going to set 30 minutes, a 30-minute timer. Okay. 30 minutes starting now. As you can see, it started right there. Okay, here we go. Day 11. Habit is a two-edged sword. It can do great harm when badly used on the stage and be a great value when proper advantage is taken of it. It is essential to establish the right creative state by forming trained habits. The unfortunate and dangerous part is that habits can be developed in the wrong direction. The more often an actor appears on the stage and acts in a theatrical, untrue way and not accordance to the true dictates of his nature, the farther he will move away from the goal we seek to achieve. It is essential to work step by step when you are learning to establish trained habits. Piecemeal, the system enters the actor until it becomes incorporated to his own second nature. The difficult should become habitual, the habitual easy, the easy beautiful. Here and now. It is extremely important to an actor's creative state to feel what we call I am. I exist here and now as part of the life of a play on the stage. To help an actor find himself in his role, in the role in himself, let him decide sincerely how to answer the question. What would I do here and now if in real life I had to act under circumstances analogous to those of which my part is set? High tension acting. Different actors have different conceptions of effect through speech. Some of them try to find it in a physical tension. They clench their fists, they heave, make themselves shake from head to toe, all for the sake of impressing the public. Under that method, the voice is pressed out in a horizontal line. This is what we call high tension acting. Actually, it does not produce volume. It leads only to shouting, to hoarseness with a narrow vocal range. Homework. For an actor, more than an artist in other fields, work at home is indispensable. Whereas a singer has to be concerned only with his voice and breathing, a dancer with his physical apparatus, and a pianist with his hands, or a wind instrumentalist with his breath and lip technique. An actor is responsible at one of the same time for his arms, his legs, his eyes, his face, the plasticity of his whole body, his rhythm, his motion, and all the program of the activities here in school. These exercises go on through whole lives as artists. The great majority of actors are convinced that they need to work only at rehearsals and that they can enjoy their leisure. But this is not so. In rehearsals, an actor merely classifies the work he should be doing at home. An actor should do the work on himself to correct shortcomings which have been pointed out to him by his instructor. Just gotta make sure my hair looks good. Hold on. Hold on. Gotta make sure the hair look good. You feel me? Like, I don't know. You feel me? Like, we gotta make it. You gotta be doing something. You feel me? I am. In our theater parlance, this means that I have put myself into the very center of theater, into the very center of imaginary circumstances. That I exist at the heart of imaginary life, in a world of imaginary things, and that I am on the point of going into action, on my own responsibility. As a participant, you cannot see yourself, but only what surrounds you. You react with your inner nature to what is going on as truly as in real life. If you sense the truth in a place subconsciously, your faith in it will naturally follow, and the state of I am, the smallest action or sensation, the slightest technical means, can acquire a deep significance, only if it is pushed to its limit of possibility, to the boundary of human truth, faith in the sense of who I am. When this point is reached, the whole spiritual and physical makeup will function normally. Ideal artist. Imagine some ideal artist who had decided to devote himself to a single large purpose in life, to elevate and entertain the public by a high form of art, to expound the hidden spiritual beatings in the writings of poetic geniuses. His whole life will be consecrated to the high cultural mission. Identification. Another type of artist may use his personal success to convey his own ideas and feelings to the masses. Great people may have a variety of high purposes. In their cases, the superobjective of any production will be merely a step in the fulfillment of the important life purpose, a supreme objective. Imaginary objects. When you reach the point of playing Hamlet, threading a way through his intricate psychology to the moment when he kills the king, will it be important for you to have a life-size sword in your hand? If you lack one, will you be unable to finish your performance? You can kill the king without a sword, and you can light a fire without matches. What needs to burn is your imagination. In communion with an imaginary, unreal, non-existent object, such as apparition, some people try to delude themselves into thinking that attention on such an effort, into thinking that they really see it. They exhaust all their energy and attention on such an effort. But an experienced actor knows that the point does not lie in the apparition itself, but in an inner relation to it. Therefore, he tries to give an honest answer to his own question. What should I do if a ghost appeared before me? Imagination. Imagination creates things that can be or happen. Every movement you make on the stage, every word you speak, is the result of the right life of your imagination. The creative process starts with the imaginative invention of a poet, a writer, the director of the play, the actor, the scene designer, and the others in the production. So the first in order to be imagination. If imagination plays an important part in an actor's work, what can he do if he lacks it? He must develop it or else leave the stage. It depends on the kind of imagination you have. The kind that has initiative will work uninterestingly, whether you are awake or asleep. Then there is the kind that lacks initiative, but is easily aroused. Observation of the nature as gifted people does disclose to us a way to control the emotion needed in a part. This way lies through the action of imagination, which to a far greater degree is subject to the effect of conscious will. We cannot directly act on our emotions, but we can prod our creative fantasy, and it stirs up our emotion or affective memory, calling up from its secret depths, beyond the reach of consciousness, elements of already experienced emotions, and regroups them to correspond with the images which arise in us. That is why a creative fantasy is fundamental, absolutely necessary gift for an actor. There are various aspects of the life of imagination. We can use our inner eye to see all sorts of visual images, living creatures, human faces, their features, landscapes, the material world of objects, settings, and so forth. With our inner ear, we can hear all sorts of melodies, voices, intonations, and so forth. We can feel things in imagination at the prompting of our sensation and emotion memory. There are actors of things seen and actors of things heard. The first are gifted with an especially fine inner vision, and the second with sensitive inner hearing. For the first type, so which I myself belong, the easiest way to create an imaginary life is with the help of visual images. For the second type, it is the image of sound that helps. We can cherish all these visual, audible, or other images. We can enjoy them passively, be the audience of our own dreams, or we can take an active part in those dreams. Every invention of the actor's imagination must be thoroughly worked out, and must be able to answer all the questions, when, where, why, how, that he asks himself when he drives his inventive faculties on to make a more and more definite picture of a make-believe existence. The actor must feel the challenge physically as well as intellectually, because the imagination can reflexively affect our physical nature and make it act. Not a step should be taken on the stage without the cooperation of your imagination. Imitation. In my admiration for the great actor, I attempted to imitate him. This has its good and its bad side. Copying a great example can train you in a good pattern, but it also checks your individual creativeness. I was also repeating what the other person had experienced in his emotions. Since my imitation was purely external, I strained myself physically to produce feelings. Finally, I realized the simple truth that such an approach to a part could never produce the image of a character. Immobility. I had thought that immobility would allow me to devote all my energy and attention to the inner life of my role. As it turned out, this arbitrary immobility, which caused not based on any inner necessity, gave rise to extreme tension and tautness of body and soul. This was quite understandable. Faced with this arbitrary forcing of nature, all feeling evaporated and was replaced by mechanical cliche acting. The actor, who was obliged to remain seated, throughout an entire performance must of necessity assure his right to this mobility vis-a-vis an audience of thousands who have come to the theater to look at him. He can only justify remaining immobile by the inner activity of his spirit as dictated by the psychological pattern of his role. Improvisation. When teaching is oriented toward a practical and even interesting objective, it is easier to convince and influence students. Our point of departure in training actors is to have them learn by acting, improvisations. One cannot go on teaching for the years in a classroom and only at the end ask a student to act. In that space of time, he will have lost all creative faculty. Creativeness must never cease, the only question being the choice of material on which to base it. In our kind of acting, we make frequent use of improvisations. This kind of creativeness gives a freshness and immediacy to a performance. In the beginning, it is the best to take subjects which are within your reach, and not too overburdened with the complicated psychology. But even the most primary kind of exercises must be carried to the point of mastery, a virtuosity in execution. It is not the job of teachers to give instruction in how to create. We should only push students in the right direction, while training their taste, requiring from them the observance of the law of nature, and the execution of their simplest exercises carried to the point of art, which is to say, an absolute truthfulness and technical perfection. Improvisations which they work out themselves are an excellent way to develop the imagination. Student actors who have been trained on improvisations later on find it easy to use their imaginative fancy on a play where this is needed. In addition to the development of imagination, improvisations have another asset. While working on one, an actor naturally, without even perceiving it, learns the creative laws of nature, the creative laws of organic nature, and the methods of psychotechnique. Inner ardor. Anything you do on the stage with coldness inside you will destroy you because it will encourage you in the habit of automatic mechanical action without imagination. What can be more effective? Fan your ardor, excite you inwardly, than an imaginary fiction which has taken possession of you? A true artist is on fire, which he does not see at all around him. He is ordainedly interested in life. It becomes for him the object of his study and his passions. He tries to record the impressions he receives from the outside, and as an artist, stamp them on his heart. One cannot be cold when working in art. You have to possess a certain degree of inner warmth. Our mind can be set to work at any time, but it is not sufficient. We must have the ardent and direct cooperation of our emotions, desires, and all other elements in our creative state. Just as yeast causes fermentation, so the senses of the life of the role imparts a kind of inner warmth. The ebullition of necessary to the actor. Artistic enthusiasm is a motive power in creativeness. Excited fascination which accompanies enthusiasm is a subtle critic, an incisive inquirer, and the best guide that the depths of feeling which are unattainable to a conscious approach. The ability to fire his feelings will feel in his mind that is one of the qualities of an actor's talent, one of the principal objectives of his inner technique. When an actor comes out of the stage before an audience, he may lose his self-possession from fright, embarrassment, or a sense of overwhelming responsibility. At that moment, he is incapable of speaking, listening, thinking, feeling, or even moving in an ordinary human way. He feels nervous, needs to gratify the public, to show himself and hide his own state, which we call a mechanical theatrical mood. I clearly realized the harm inherent to the mechanical theatrical mood, so I began to search for some spiritual and physical state while on the stage, which would be beneficial rather than harmful to the creative process. My observations taught me that in the creative state a large role is played by the absence of the physical tension, the complete subordination of the body to the actor's will. Then I perceived that the creativeness is first of all conditioned by the complete concentration of an actor's entire nature. So an actor turns his spiritual and physical creative instrument, his mind, will, and feelings, combined to mobilize all of his inner elements. Out of this fusion of elements arises an important inner state, the inner creative mood. The habit of being daily on the stage in the right creative state is what produces actors who are masters of their art. Inner images and hearing. As long as we are actively creating this film, broken series of images will be will be thrown on the screen of our inner visions, making vivid the circumstances among which we are moving. As these inner images, as to these inner images, it is correct to say we feel them inside of us. We possess the faculty to see things which are not there by making a mental picture of them. This inner stream of images is a great help to the actor in fixing his attention on the inner life of his part. The same process occurs when we are dealing with sounds. We hear imaginary noises with an inner ear. Inner motive forces. The first and the most important master is feeling. Unfortunately, it is not traceable. Since you cannot begin your work unless your feelings happen to function on their own, it is necessary for you to have recourse to some other master. Who is it? The second master is the mind. Your mind can be a motive power in your creative process. Is there a third? If longings could put your creative apparatus to work and direct it spiritually, we have found our third master, will. Consequently, we have three impelling moves in our psychic life. Since these three forces form a triumvirate inextricable bound up together, what you say of one of the necessary concerns the other two. This combined power of utmost importance to us actors, and we should be gravely mistaken not to use it for our practical ends. Actors whose feelings overbalance their intellects will naturally, in playing Romeo or Othello, emphasize the emotional side. Actors in whom the will is the most powerful attribute will play Macbeth or Brand and underscore ambition, or fanaticism. The third type will unconsciously stress more than necessary the intellectual shadings of a part like Hamlet or Nathan the Wise. It is, however, necessary not to allow any of the three elements to crush out either of the others and thereby upset the balance of necessary harmony. Our art recognizes all three types in their creative work. All three forces play leading parts. Inner tension. In our inner being, there are many superfluous tensions, but it is necessary to handle these inner tensions with quite a different way and not as we deal with in plain muscles. Inner elements are like cobwebs in comparison with muscles, which are more like cables. Separate cobwebs can easily be broken up, but if you plait them together into ropes, you will not be able to cut them with an axe. So be careful how you handle them in their incipient state. There are three stages. There are three stages in them too: tension, release, justification. In the first two stages, you seek out the severest inner tension, identify what causes it, and try to avoid it. In the third stage, you justify your new inner state on the basis of appropriate given circumstances. Inner vision. Inner images are formed inside of us, in our imagination, our memories, and then, as it were, we externalize them so that we may examine them. Yet we look at these imagined objects, so to say, from the inside, not with our external but with our inner eyes. I may also say, to turn the phrase around, that although these imaginary objects and images are suggested to us by outside life, they nevertheless are first shaped within us, in our imagination and memory. It is only against the background of such explanations that we can accept the term inner vision. Inspiration. The most important difficulty is the abnormal circumstance of the actor's creative work. Other non-performing artists can create when they are under the influence of inspiration, but an actor himself is obliged to call forth his inspiration at the exact time he is advertised to come out and perform. The very best that can happen is to have the actor completely carried away by the play. Then, regardless of his own, he lives the part, subconsciously and with inspiration. No such genius exists. Therefore, our art teaches us first of all to create consciously, because that will best prepare the way for inspiration. Realism and even naturalism in the inner preparation of our part is essential because it causes your subconscious to work with, induces outbursts of inspiration. We need a creative subconscious in the place to work for it, above all in a stirring objective. When an actor is completely absorbed by some profoundly moving object, so that he drowns his whole being passionately into his execution, he reaches a state we call inspiration. If today you are in good form and are blessed with inspiration, forget about technique and abandon yourself to your feelings. But an actor should remember that inspirations appear only on holidays. Therefore, there must be some other well prepared course for him to follow in which he can control. The safest one of them is to establish the line of physical actions. Let him absorb all the technical means in his disposal until they become second nature. Let him absorb all the technical means at his disposal until they become second nature. Let him adopt the given circumstances of his part so completely that they become his very own. Only then they may his ultra-sensitive inspiration decide to emerge and take into his power and direction his creative initiative. Give up chasing this phantom inspiration. Leave it to the molecular fairy nature. Inspiration actors. There are individual moments when you suddenly and unexpectedly rise to a great artistic heights and thrill your audience. In such moments, you are creating according to your inspiration. But would you feel yourself capable enough to play 5 great acts of Othello with the same lift which you accidentally played part in that other short scene? Such an undertaking would be far beyond the strength of a genius with an extraordinary temperament. For our purposes, you must have a well worked out psychological technique, an enormous talent, and a great physical and nervous reserves. You have not all these things any more than the inspiration actors who do not admit technique. They, as you did, rely entirely on inspiration. If this inspiration does not turn up, neither you nor they have anything with which to fill in the blank spaces. Almost as a rule, actors do not admit that laws, techniques, theories, much less a system, much have any part in their work. Actors are overwhelmed by their genius in quotation marks. The less gifted the actor, the greater his genius, and it doesn't allow to make a conscious approach to his art. Such actors believe that any conscious factor in creativeness is only a nuance. They find it easier to be an actor by the grace of God. I shall not deny that there are times when, for unknown reasons, they are able to have an intuitive, emotional hold on their parts, and they play reasonably well in a scene or even in a whole performance. But an actor cannot gamble his career on a few accidental successes. Accident is not an art. You cannot build on it. Intonations and punctuation. Punctuation signs require special vocal intonations. Without these intonations, they do not fulfill their functions. In each of these intonations, there are certain effect. The exclamation sign for sympathy, approval, or protest. A colon demands attentive consideration for what follows, and so on. There is a great expressiveness in all of these signs. The external word, by means of intonation, affects one's emotion memory, feelings, takes the comma. It poses a miraculous quality, its curve, causes listeners to wait patiently for the end of the unfinished sentence. Intonations and the pauses in themselves possess the power to produce an emotional effect. Justification. Put life into all the imagined circumstances and actions until you have completely satisfied your sense of truth, until you have awakened a sense of faith in the reality of your sensations. This is what we call justification of a part. What difference is there between the dry catalogue of facts, as read when I first became acquainted with the play, and the present appraisal of those same facts? Now they are living events in an infinitely exciting day, impregnated with life indeed my own. Kernel of the play, or part. The aim of a theater should be to create the inner life of a play and its physical embodiment of the stage, in consonance with the essential kernel and the idea which gave birth to the work of the playwright. The problem for our art, and consequently for our theater, is to create an inner life for a play and its characters, to express a physical and dramatic terms and fundamental core, the idea which impelled the writer, the poet, to produce his composition. Limitations. Some actors do not fully realize the limitations placed on them by nature. They undertake problems beyond their powers to solve. The comedian wants to play tragedy, the old man wants to be a Juan Premier, the simple type longs for heroic parts, and the soubrette for the dramatic. This can only result in forcing, impotence, and stereotyped mechanical action. These are shackles, and your only means of getting out of them is to study your art and yourself in relation to it. Living apart. The approach we have chosen, the art of living apart, asserts that the main actor in any form of creativeness is the life of a human spirit. that the actor of the part, their joint feelings and subconscious creation, what we hold in highest regard, are impressions made by our emotions, which leave a lifelong mark on the spectator and transform actors into real living beings. Aside from the fact that it opens up avenues for inspiration, living a part helps the artist to carry out one of his main objectives. His job is not to present merely the external life of his character. He must fit his own human qualities for the life of the other person and pour into it all of his own soul. An artist takes the best that is in him and carries it over on the stage. The form will vary according to the necessities of the play, but the human emotions of the artist will remain alive, and they cannot be replaced by anything else. Therefore, no matter how much you act, how many parts you take, you should never allow yourself any exception to the rule of using your own feelings. Salvini said, "The great actor should feel the thing he is portraying, not only once or twice while he is studying his part, but to a greater or lesser degree every time he plays it, no matter whether it is the first or thousandth time. Always act in your own person. You can never get away from yourself. The moment you lose yourself on the stage marks the departure from truly living your part and the beginning of exaggerated false acting." Spiritual realism, truth of artistic feelings. These are the most difficult achievements in our art. They require long, arduous inner preparation. The difference between my art and that practiced by others is the difference between seeming and being. Living image. Each dramatic and artistic image created on the stage is unique and cannot be repeated, just as in nature. Without an external form, neither your inner characterization nor the spirit of your image will reach the public. The external characterization illustrates. An actor is called upon to create an image while he is on the stage and not just show himself to the public. All actors who are artists, creators of the image, should make use of characterization. There are some actors whom the image they have created become their alter ego, their double. The image never leaves them. They constantly watch the image, not in order to copy it, but because they find themselves under its spell and its power, and they act thus or thus because they are living the life of their image. Logic and continuity. In every phase of our work, we constantly had occasion to speak in logic of continuity. They are the prime importance. Creating must be logical and have continuity. Even illogical and incoherent characters must be represented within the logical plane and framework of a whole play, a whole performance. How to accomplish this? By means of physical actions, because they are easier to establish materially and visually, and yet are closely tied to all the other elements. It is easier to orient oneself with their aid. Having prepared a logical and coherent line of physical actions, we discover the parallel to it will run a logical and coherent line of emotion. Come to the tragic part of our role gradually and logically by carrying out correctly your sequence of external physical actions and by believing in them. Do not think about your emotions. Think about what you have to do. If you do not adhere strictly to an absolute pattern of logic and continuity, you are in danger of conveying passions, images, actions in generalized form. If an actor keeps in constant exercise, he will come to know practically all human actions from the point of view of their component parts, their consecutiveness, and their logic. But this work must be done daily, constantly, like the vocalizing of a singer or the exercises of a dancer. Systematic and absolutely valid exercise of actions without props. Magic if. From the moment of the appearance of the magic if, the actor passes from the plane of actual reality into the plane of another life, created and imagined by him. In order to be emotionally involved in the imaginary world which the actor builds on the basis of a play, in order to be caught up in the emotion of the stage, he must believe in it. This does not mean he should give himself up to anything like hallucination. Quite the contrary. He does not forget that he is surrounded by stage scenery and props. He asks himself, but if this were real, how would I react? What would I do? And normally, naturally, this if acts as a lever to lift him into a world of creativity. The secret of the effect of if is that it does not use fear or force. Another quality, it arouses an inner and real creativity, an instantaneous inner stimulus. adds a whole series of contingencies based on your whole experience in life, and you will see how easy it is for far you can sincerely to believe in possibilities of what you're called upon to do on the stage. Makeup. Of one feature in my makeup gave a living and comic expression to my face, and something suddenly turned within me. All that had been dim became clear. All that was groundless suddenly had ground under its feet. All that I did not believe in suddenly found my trust. Something had ripened within me, slowly filling with life while it was in the mud. But now and last it bloomed. An accidental touch in the makeup brush on my face served to open the flower on this roll. Oh, looks like there's 30 minutes up. Thanks for watching.